Hey everybody, welcome to the Karma live stream. What this is, we'll figure this out together. I'm going to basically talk to you about the book, about the previous volumes, and a little bit about what kind of inspired the story. But they build this as being a drink and talk, so figured I need to drink. I have my glass, my ice, and my Ardbeg, the ultimate scotch. So, yep, it's noon here, and I'm already drinking. I have a great job. Hey, Ed, good to see you. If you missed the Pop Go the Writers on Sunday, Ed, Jim Beard finally watched The Batman and had his review of it. And I think we don't like Jim anymore. Anybody who doesn't like The Batman and doesn't like The Princess Bride, you got to start questioning their characteristics, their character. So, all right, guys, let's talk about karma. That's why we're here. Now, first thing, as of right now, we're at 199 backers. So I'm hoping, if nothing else, we get to 200 before the end of this live stream. Just that round number, because that 200th backer, that seems important. And, he says, I have to watch the one to see what he said. Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to talk about karma. Now, if you guys haven't read the first volume, how all this started is I got a call one night from Nick Marucci over at Dynamite. And he said that he's been wanting to do a kind of a slice of life, adult style graphic novel to try to tap into some of that market that's out there. There's a few other books, Mirko Andolfo's Sweet Paprika, Stepan Sedgwick's Sunstone, books like that. There's definitely a market for that out there. And he wanted to see if I had any ideas. Well, I spent 20 years as a photographer as well as being a writer. But I wasn't like working for a magazine or anything like that. What I was doing is I was building a portfolio. I was selling individual pieces, but I was working with a lot of internet models and stuff like that. Doing group shoots, doing content shoots, stuff like that. And it was a very interesting experience. And I found myself in a lot of strange situations. So I thought about, well, what would it be like to take some of those strange situations and take a guy who very straight-laced, because I never meant to become a photographer. I should probably tell that story too, but we'll get to that. So I never meant to become a photographer. And most of the time I'd get into these situations and my thought would be, how the hell did this happen? How? Why am I sitting here? Why am I sitting here in a hotel room in downtown LA talking to a naked woman about how she was raised by a small town coroner and coroner/mortician, and how she used to help her dad prep the bodies? Or just strange conversations. I remember how during one model shoot, the conversation was, "Oh, hey Jay, good to see you." The conversation was, "Have you noticed that the name Hitler isn't that popular anymore? Not a whole lot of Hitlers out there anymore." So yeah, it's a very strange situation. I found myself one night with two models with me, kind of hanging off of each other and me, and running into Gene Simmons from Kiss. very strange world stuff. So I thought, what if I take some of these weird events and put them around a budding romance of some straight-laced guy suddenly being thrust into this very different world? Because that's what I noticed. The more that I hung out with these models and stuff, and especially some that would do more adult content, it was just a very different world. They were much more open about things. They were much more free from the normal pretenses that people have, you know. So that's what I pitched to Nick and Joe Rybant, and I said, okay, this is a story idea, and in the first book, it's about this advertising guy. He works in advertising. His name is Alex, and what he is he's a photographer for advertising. He does product photography, and I've always been fascinated by product photography because you find out once you're looking into it, there's some amazing secrets, like the fact that if you ever see a picture of a bowl of ice cream or a hot fudge sundae, it's not a hot fudge sundae. You know, they use mashed potatoes instead of the ice cream. Because mashed potatoes don't melt, but they get the same look on film. And it's all those kind of things. And I thought that's a very different photography world, because you're still trying to make what you're shooting look the best you can, but there's a whole different set of secrets where with a model, you try to get the best picture possible without making them look like Gumby. And what I mean by that is if you ever try to tell somebody how to pose, they forget how to move and stand naturally. And the next thing you know, they're standing there like they're a bendable figure. So that's something you have to learn as a photographer. Or you work with models who have been doing it long enough that they know every pose that looks good for them. And then you just let them go. And that is what I ended up learning to do, was let the model be the model and find the shot in the pose. It says, my grandfather's name was Adolf. When he migrated here from Germany, he had to change his name to Edward in order to get citizenship. That's how I got my name. Oh, that's interesting, Ed. I didn't know they were actively getting rid of the first names. So, all right. So Alex is the main male figure. Karma, the name of the book, is the namesake of, she's a supermodel who is working her way up in the modeling industry, but she really wants to branch out. She wants to become more of a brand than just a model. You know, I mean, if you look at models like Cindy Crawford, we all know Cindy Crawford. We all remember Cindy Crawford. But there are other models from that same era that never quite hit that level of exposure, that didn't become spokesmen for other products, that didn't get their own Pepsi commercial and end up in movies and stuff like that. So that is Karma's goal. And she has an agent who we find out is kind of actively working against that, because it would move her out of his realm of influence. You know, right now she's his meal ticket. She's his big star. And, you know, like I said, that's kind of moving it away from what he can do, so which she'd probably get a new agent. So that's the basic of the first volume. But there's a lot of fun things that happen in the story too. There's a scene in the beginning where Alex meets Karma. And that's basically, she is on a film set and she trips over some cabling and starts to fall, and Alex catches her. And that's how they meet, and they have that moment. That's based on a real moment in my life. I used to work for Bleeding Cool. And before I became a regular writer for Bleeding Cool, um, Rich had been looking for someone to visit the set of an adult film that was being made, a Supergirl parody film. And, Rich Johnson is in London. So he put out this call, and I'm like, I could do it. I had done some writing for other websites in the past. So I'm like, yeah, I could do that for you. So they set it up, and I missed the actual day. I wasn't able to go. And I thought, okay, no big deal. And about a week later, that company reached out to me and said, we're really sad that you weren't able to make it on press day. Would you like to come visit the set this week? We're doing more shooting. I'm like, sure. Why not? So they gave me the address to a house in the valley, and I drove up there, and I got to interview a lot of the women from the movie. I got to watch as they were filming scenes. I got to watch filming of a scene that had 2 guys, and I think it was 10 women. And I have to tell you that watching that gets boring, especially because you realize that a lot of it is fake. So I excused myself and went to sit in the kitchen, which was kind of the green room area. Dan, you have such a storied life, writer, actor, photographer, bodyguard, the list goes on. I told you, I've had a weird life, really weird life. So I'm in the kitchen, and I'm hearing the scene being filmed. And the first thing I realized is that when you're not watching it, it sounds different. And it sounded like one of 2 things to me. Either a swarm of angry bees or a zombie swarm attacking. That's what that kind of scene sounds like when you're out of view. They encouraged me to film on my phone scenes, that was, yeah. Oh, hey, Kenneth, good to see you. So that was interesting as well, was having certain scenes on my phone for quite some time. But while I was hanging out in the kitchen, this one particular adult film star came walking through the area, and it was a weird floor. It was tile, and it had like grout lines that were kind of indented. And she was wearing high heels and nothing else. And she hit wrong on one of the grout lines, tripped and started to fall. Well, I was on a bar stool that turned, so I saw what was happening. I spun around, put my arm out, caught her, and pulled her in. And that moment, she just kind of lingered in my arms for a minute and thanked me. And it was just a very interesting little moment. And then later on that evening, this was a house that was kind of up behind a bunch of other houses that had this very long driveway. And I got there early enough that a bunch of other cars came in after me. So I was kind of stuck there for the day until more cars left that I could get my truck out. But there was a point, it was like close to midnight, and they were starting to shuffle cars around to try to, and that same model came up, or actress came up to me, handed me her car keys, and said, if they need to move my car, these are my keys. You're the only one here I trust with them. Like, okay. So, yeah. So I took that moment of catching her and that lingering and stuff, and I went, okay, that's how Alex and Karma are going to meet. That's where it comes from. So that's the first one. It says 7 Up out of the nose doesn't feel good. No, it doesn't. So, by the way, guys, if you have any questions at all about the book, about the modeling stuff, go ahead and ask. I'm going to be on here for a bit, but as long as you guys are here, I'll keep going for a while. Also, let's check. Did we get our? No, haven't got our 200th subscriber yet. So we got to get our 200th backer. So if you got friends out there, you want to nudge them to come watch the live stream, or at least tell them about the campaign, I would appreciate it. I think it's great that we got the same creative team is back. You know, Carlos Renault, who did an amazing job on the first book, is back. Stepan Sejic is back. Mirka Andolfo is back, and Michael DePascal. And what's neat is I actually had worked with both Michael and Stepan in the past. Stepan and I was writing Sinbad for Zenoscope, and he did the cover for the second issue, and Michael did covers for the Lady Death book I wrote for Avatar. Will this be released through Dynamite into shops like the first one? I don't know for sure. I think if the campaign is successful, that it might be. But right now, I think the main focus is getting the campaign done. It says, I had a question about the book, and I'll be number 200. Are there hardcovers? I don't see where it says, and I've never used backer kit before. Okay, the answer on the hardcovers is we're doing it like we did the first one. This is how it worked on the Kickstarter that we did. Is it got to a certain, one of the stretch goals turned all the paperbacks into hardcovers. So that's the way we're doing it here too. So at first they're all going to be paperbacks, but there is a few stretch goals, and one of them is, I believe, I don't know. Okay, it's to turn into hardcovers. I can't say exactly what that stretch goal is, but that is the plan. So as of right now, there isn't specifically a hardcover, but get enough people behind it, there will be. So I know I love the hardcovers too. I should mention, I mentioned earlier that I didn't plan to be a photographer, and I'll give you the short version of that. All the more reason to share out the campaign and get people. Exactly, Jay. Thank you. So yeah, you gotta spread the word about this, man. So becoming a photographer was by accident. This was the early 90s, and I was putting together a publishing company. Will I be able to watch the live stream after it is finished? Scott would know the answer to that for sure, but I believe this is being simulcast on Dynamite's YouTube page, which means that it would be available on the YouTube page. So if I'm wrong, Scott, let me know. But otherwise, I'd say yes, that'll be the case. Yes, this will be posted to Dynamite's YouTube channel, so you can enjoy it later too as well. So, all right. So I was putting together a publishing company in the early 90s. Hardline Studios is what we were called. We put a couple books out under that name. And we had a bunch of up-and-coming creators. One of them was this young lady named Michelle, who had a very interesting comic idea, and her main character was based off of kind of herself, but a very specific look. And the artist we had working on the book was living in Arizona. Now, this was early 90s, so emails and stuff like that were rarer. Cell phones didn't have great cameras. Text messaging, pictures and stuff like that, that really wasn't there. So the artist needed pictures of Michelle in that kind of a look. And we had another guy in the group who was a photographer and had made offers to film Michelle or take pictures of Michelle and send the stuff. And he procrastinated and procrastinated and procrastinated. And I had gotten off work early one day, and I get this call from Michelle saying, I've got to get some pictures taken to send off to Mike. Can you do it? And I said, I don't own a camera. But then I said, I think my mother has a camera I could borrow. Why don't you swing by the house and we'll get some shots taken? So I got home. I told my folks what they were doing. They went, okay, we're going to go get some lunch and some shopping and stuff so you can do this, and no big deal. And I get the camera, and Michelle comes over, and we're taking some photos. And she tells me, well, there's a couple of photos I really would love to take while we're doing this that I've never had a chance to. A little insinuative stuff, like that. Nothing too racy, but I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, okay. So I took some pictures and pretty much thought that was that. And then someone else who was the basis for a character went, oh, I need some pictures too. And then another person. And then next thing you know, I was doing photography. And I woke up with an idea for a shoot I wanted to do. And once I got the creative juice and I got, oh, no, I want to do this kind of shoot, I was suddenly a photographer. So I'm self-taught. I bought equipment as I went and just learned. I did a lot of group shoots. These are fascinating things, especially if you want to get into photography. You show up at a shoot and, this is going to circle back around to a karma story. And there's a bunch of models. There's a dozen models or 20 models. And there's probably an equal number of photographers. And you break into groups and you go around and you shoot with that group for an hour or so. And then you switch around again. And then you shoot with another group of models. And then at the end of the day, you can book them individually. If there's a model you particularly liked working with, but you did that separately. And I had done a couple of those, and that's really where I kind of got my start. And I met a lot of models. If you're following my Facebook page or any of my social media, I'm reposting daily a bunch of images from when I was doing the photography. I haven't stopped. I just haven't had any opportunities in the last couple of years. So I may shoot again someday, but right now it's, mainly stuff that's a couple of years old or much older. But one of the group shoots, I met this woman. We were at the meet and greet the night before, and I looked over at her and I'm like, I know her from somewhere. And we got a chance to talk, and she looks at me, she goes, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, yeah, I get that same feeling. Well, we ended up shooting in the group, really had a good time with her. So I booked her after the shoot for an hour, and we were shooting at one point. And while she was posing, a bee came by, and she really didn't like bees. Hello, Sarah. Nice to see you. And she comes running over to get away from the bee and leaps into my arms. And now I'm holding this naked woman that I barely know. And I spin her around to I'm not sure how you protect somebody from a bee. I think I was better off if she was being shot at. But so her and I from that became friends. And I would go and hang out with her. She lived, even though the shoot itself was in Arizona, we both lived out here in LA. And you now have 200. Awesome. By the way, folks, Sarah, I believe, is part of the Kinky Carrot campaign on Comictopia, which is an awesome looking book as well. So if, maybe get a chance to look at that It is a really good looking book. So I became good friends with Ree, and I would go over to her house and we would do a lot of things together. We'd hang out, and I would go to visit her and we'd be talking, and she'd be like, okay, let's go out and eat, but I need to take a shower. Like, okay, go ahead. And she'd be like, well, come talk to me while I'm doing it. And like, what? And so what I would do, and this wasn't a one-time occasion, this was every time I went to visit her, she would want me to come into the restroom and either sit on the toilet or lean against the wall while she was showering and just talk to her. And we'd just continue the conversation. So that ended up in Karma, the first volume of Karma as well. Sarah says, I'm absolutely on the Granica I apologize, Sarah. She's on the Granica campaign. So, but I also absolutely back to Kinky Carrot looks good, but she is on the Granica campaign. So check that one out as well. So, yeah. So there's a scene where Alex is talking to Anna, Karma's roommate, and she has to get ready, and they're talking about the relationship and how to fix things with Karma. There's a little problem going on. And of course, she needs to take a shower. So she goes into the shower and tells Alex, well, just keep talking to me, and has him follow her into the restroom. So those are the type of things that kind of inspired moments in the story. The Princess Bride thing is from real life. The French Toast is also from real life. What's funny now is I'm actually a pretty good cook. I learned to cook because of the pandemic, but there was a time where the only thing I really knew how to make was French toast. And that was because I figured if I ever got lucky enough to have a woman invite me over to her house overnight, I needed to be able to make breakfast. Sarah says, I'm doing my first erotic comic now, releasing next month. So I've been creeping on everyone's erotic books for guidance for over a year. Nice. Good luck with that, Sarah. Let me know. Let me know when you get that thing rolling, and maybe I can hype it out there for you. So yeah, a lot of interesting little true life things got put into the first volume, and now that we're doing the second volume, I borrowed more real life things, and I don't want to say what they are right now because I don't want to ruin the story. But if you haven't read the first book, there are ways in the current campaign to get the first book as well. Also, it's funny, we put the campaign up there, and I had somebody reach out to me and said, is there any way to do like a bundle with digital versions of the first two books? And I'm like, probably. I think we could do that. But, let me check, because I was surprised we didn't have one. And I got a hold of Jim, who's running the thing, and he's like, yeah, I think we can. So there is now a digital option that allows you to get both books digitally for as a bundle. And already 13 people jumped on that. So that's pretty cool. So it's like, yeah. Sarah says, I would love that. Thank you. I backed Karma too. Well, thank you, Sarah. I greatly appreciate that. All right. So you guys have any questions while I take a drink? Not normally an Ardbeg fan, but this is a really good sketch. I tend to go more Islay over Highland and more peaty stuff, but this is very nice. Okay. Trying to think of some other wait, I can get both digitally, changing my pledge now. Yeah, there is a campaign there is a option that allows you to get both both volumes digitally. If Karma 3 gets made, got to find a way to do a bondage cover And by that, I mean black ropes attached on the cover. I like that, Jay. Actually, have the cover bound. Nice, nice. So there's a couple artists I would love to get covers out of. Don't get me wrong; these are phenomenal. But I would love to have a Lisner cover or Tim Vigil. I'm a little afraid what Tim Vigil would do, though, because that's a little out there. And I have a good friend of mine, Ben Templesmith, who once told me that he gets a little bummed out because he never gets asked to draw women. You know, it's always creepy things that he gets to draw in vampires and stuff. And he said, you know, I would love to do a woman on a cover sometime. So I would love to get Ben to do a cover. Actually, it's a quick funny story about Ben. Ben, this was right when 30 Days of Night was big. And this is also when instant messenger was the thing. Instead of text messages, you had your AOL instant messenger. And I was chatting with him, and he was so tired of drawing vampires. And he said, "Can you write me a story?" I said, "Yeah, what do you want?" He goes, "I want guys in suits with samurai swords." I'm like, oh, okay. What do you want them to do? He goes, "I want guys in suits with samurai swords. Rest doesn't matter." So I said, "Okay, well, you want a full script?" He goes, No, just write out, like, we'll do it the Marvel style, the old Marvel style. Write out the plot." He says, "I'll lay out the pages and stuff, then you can script it after." I'm like, all right. So I spent like the next night, came up with an idea, pitched it to him. He liked it. And then didn't really think much about it. A couple months later, I'm at San Diego Con, and I'm walking through the floor, and I run into Ben, and we're chatting. And Ted Adams from IDW is coming the other way, and he stops. He goes, "Ben, you want to do that samurai book next with Dan?" And Ben's like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, let's make it happen." And I stopped. I looked at Ben. I went, "Did we just sign a book deal?" He goes, "Yeah, that's how it works." I went, "Damn." That ended up being Bloodstained Sword, which was a trade that came out from them, and got reprinted once as well. And I did end up doing full script on it. So, you know, a lot of artists, Sarah, you might as well ask, because a lot of artists, if it's something they really want to draw, may be willing to come down to a price that you can afford. Yeah, that was just so much fun to do that book and have it come out. It even at one point got backed or picked up as a potential movie property, but the guy who was producing it wanted to make one minor change, which was he wanted to make the main character white, and I'm like, that kind of goes opposite of everything the story's about. So anyway, all right. So back to Karma. The other fun part of Karma, and Sarah's gonna have to deal with this writing erotic books. You need to change up the nude scenes. You know, you can't just have the same thing constantly. It can't just be, oh, they're having sex. Hey, Samson, how you doing? So I tried to come up with as many different reasons, you know, different things. Like one of the things in the first book is actually a bondage photo shoot. because then you get the nudity and stuff like that without, it's a different way to show that and to get that feel. But also I got to highlight shibari, the Japanese bondage art, and that was a lot of fun in doing that. And I threw in an orgy scene and stuff like that. And then book 2, though, I had to come along and go, okay, I need different things. It can't all be the same. It has to be, and I found one of the scenes, also inspired by real life, takes place in a malt shop. Now, it wasn't a malt shop that the real part takes place in, but it was something more intimate, yet no nudity. And that's one of the scenes I'm really proud of, Also, there's a great line in the book, and I won't say how it ties into it, but there's at one point somebody says what their safe word is, and the word is majestity. And that the word majestity, and I don't know if anybody's ever used that before, but for me, it came up one night when I was sitting around with my girlfriend, and we had gotten high and a little drunk. And in the middle of the conversation, she was trying to say that something was her destiny. And it came out majestity. And I went, that's a keeper. I'm going to use that word somewhere. And I was able to put it into the book. So Sarah says, I think I'm jumping into mine with a slightly unconventional scene, so I might be setting myself up for trouble by trying to top it in future issues. I don't know if you have to worry about topping it. Like I said, because the first book, I had a large orgy scene. I had a bondage scene. I had a scene with toys. But I was able to make that all flow into the natural story. I didn't necessarily try to go more extreme in the first one. I just tried to increase the intimacy. Because in the first one, the first book, it's all about the newness of the relationship, while the second book is about the strengthening of the relationship, where intimacy is a bigger deal. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes the wildest sex you have is just with the person you love. It's the intimacy and stuff like that. It's not necessarily because you're swinging from a chandelier and there's 6 pit bulls watching or anything like that. Jay says, Karma is not only sexy, but has so much substance. Even if there was zero nudity in the book, would still be fantastic. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that very much. That's my thing. Is I like to write characters. Whenever I sit down to write a book, I write from a character point of view. And I don't know how much you guys know about what I've written in the past. I've written novels. I've written superhero books. I've written sci-fi. I did the Freeze over at Top Cow, along with their Honor Harrington series based off of the novels, the Honor Harrington novels. I wrote some 30 Days of Night stuff for IDW. I wrote for bunch of stuff for Zenoscope. I've kind of worked for all the not minor publishers, but I've worked for just about everybody but Marvel and DC. So for me, it's not so much about the genre, because I don't necessarily write genre. I write characters and situations, and I feel that how you put them through that situation is where the genre comes in. I always try to put a mystery into what's going on, and I try to make the characters as realistic as possible. And after that, it's just a matter of telling a good story. Sarah says, my concern is quality, but I very much want to keep it interesting too. Then that the biggest suggestion I would make is focus on your characters. You know, because if your readers can identify with your characters, I mean, Karma is about a photographer advertising photographer that gets pulled into modeling world and a supermodel. So the number of people that can relate to that is very small. But what they can relate to is the realness of the relationship. Coming across somebody who lives in a very different world that you do. Somebody who's a little more wild where you're a little more tame. I think of there was the Bruce Willis movie Blind Date. There's been a lot of movies about there was one with Melanie Griffith, I don't remember the name of it, that had a straight-laced person being pulled into a much more wild world. And I think that's the approach I had from it. Not necessarily what made them in these worlds, but their reaction and whatnot. Every once in a while, I make sure that Alex has a moment where he stops and goes, my life is bizarre. Or how did any of this happen? You know, he's got his friend Eddie. And that's kind of Eddie's role too. Every once in a while, just kind of smack Alex going, these are not real world problems. These are alternate world problems. These are problems that nobody has. So I think that's the key to writing this kind of story, is making the characters as realistic as possible and putting them in realistic situations. There's one scene in the first volume that they're supposed to go out on a date and Karma's sick. So what Alex does is he picks up a movie. That's where The Princess Bride comes in. And goes over, makes her a hot toddy, and just sits on the couch with her, you know, when she's sick. And to me, that is as much relationship building as anything else that happens in the book. Because people bond through the good times and the bad. So you've got to have both. It can't just be, I mean, I'm going to use an odd reference, but I'm seeing parallels with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to what I'm writing. And it's because Travis Kelce has a certain level of fame. He's a football player and people recognize him. He does his podcast with his brother. His brother's kind of famous too. But he was kind of a C going towards B-list celebrity. You know, he probably wasn't being invited to all the big things, but, you know, the football world knew who he was. He was getting some commercials, stuff like that. He starts dating Taylor Swift. And, I mean, if there's an A, B, and C level, she's S tier. She is one of the most popular people in the world. You know, I mean, it's stunning how popular she is. And now this guy is dating her. So even though he has his certain level of fame, he has so many eyes on him now. Plus, Taylor's very open about her relationships in the sense that all of her fans knew the different people she was dating, the breakups. She writes about the breakups in her songs. So that's a huge magnifying glass to deal with. So where Travis, yes, he's, like I said, got his level of fame, it's not even close to the par that he's at now. He has gotten so popular based off of his relationship that his mother and his sister-in-law are becoming famous. His mother's getting a commercial. So that's And they're trying to have a relationship. And they're trying to have a relationship while she's traveling the world performing, and he's trying to get ready for a new football season. Yet when he's got the time, he'll hop on a plane and go to a concert. And God love them. I wish nothing but the absolute best for both of them. I think they're an awesome couple, and I hope they work out amazing, because everything is against them. And I don't mean that the world is against them, but we live in a world where we love to see people rise, and then once they get to a certain plateau, society kind of likes to tear them down. So right now they're on that rise, and they're getting really popular. And can they stay there? Can they actually have a real relationship in the middle of all that chaos? And that's kind of what this book is about too. And even though I wrote it before Travis and Taylor ever started dating, there is a connection there. There is a similarity. And those are the kind of things that I'd want to continue with this series. If we get to do a third one, what happens if Karma becomes more popular? What if she puts out an album or puts out a movie, stuff like that? And the separation gets bigger and bigger, and the more limelight, the more, So those are the kinds of things I want to explore with this story. So in a lot of ways, the eroticism and stuff is a part of it, but that there's also a lot of just straightforward relationship stuff in this as well. So I like to think it's a balanced book. But so, any other questions while you guys are here? Anybody drinking at home too with me? All right. So I gave you guys some of the insights on where some of the stories come from. And I talked about getting into photography, which was, again, not my original intent. I got to tell you, that's kind of a lot of how I get into this stuff. I have colored comics, lettered comics, inked comics, published comics, all of that stuff, and none of it was planned. All I wanted to do was be a writer. How do you feel about the Comictopia event so far? Good question. I like it. I like the idea of it. I like the concept of it, because the hardest part of getting a comic out there, or anything that you're not part of a major company like Penguin or Marvel, is getting attention on the property. And we live in a world where self-publishing is easy. These books here, these model books that I have. Now, I've been published by Goliath. I have a collection of black and white nudes I shot that were published by Goliath. They created an imprint called Mixapix. It came out in early 2000s. It's a nice hardcover book that they put out. It did well. These books I put together myself. They're listed on Amazon. Now, they sell a few issues every month, but they don't go like gangbusters. There's not hand over fist type of thing. Half the time I forget they're there. I could do more, but because I've shot with over 100 models, so I've got a lot that I could put books together. But again, they haven't taken off. But again, they trickle some money in. But the problem is that when you put a book out through Amazon, doing their self-publishing route, even Vampirella, when I wrote the Vampirella novel, it has to get attention, and it's hard because so many things come out. And that's the same way with comic shops. There are so many books released every month that just getting attention. And then with Kickstarter, the crowdfunding stuff, you're at least able to front load your audience, get people to commit to it, but it's difficult to get the word out. Because, I'm on social media every day. And because this is the book that it is, it has to do with my photography, I'm posting every day about, my photos and then linking to this. But again, it only goes so far. You only have a certain social media reach. The Comictopia thing allows us to help cross-promote each other. You have your specific property that you're tied to. In this case, we're tied to The Legend of La Rosa Bianca. And, if somebody backs us and them, they get an extra prize or an extra reward, those kind of things. But also you get the overall banner, and you go on there and it's, hey, Fabrice, how you doing, sir? By the way, if you guys don't know, Fabrice also has a book on Comictopia from Fair Square Comics. You definitely want to check that out as well. By the way, Fabrice is doing some amazing stuff with Fair Square. So you really should be checking out the whole line of stuff from them. But so that's the thing, is that, Fabrice can plug our stuff. We can plug his stuff, Sarah's stuff, American Mythology. Zenoscope has a book on here. It's an omnibus of Cinderella. Steve Rude has a book on here. I mean, Steve Rude is awesome. And, so we're all kind of cross-promoting each other and getting the word out there. So, that is... that I do love the idea of the Comictopia. And that's why we're here over maybe another crowdfunding thing. We did the first book on a different crowdfunding or crowdsourcing website. We're doing this here to be part of this project, and I've loved the feedback so far, and I love the cross promotion. So I hope that anybody who is backing one of the books will take a minute and go to the main Comictopia page and look. It's like there's 28 books total. 15 of them have already funded. $142,000 have already been brought in. There's over 3,000 backers. So, but also you get to see, is it who's trending? Who's doing well? Who's needing a little help? That type of thing. So, we want to see that get around. We want to see other people jump up there too. Like the top book right now is called The Unfamiliars. Not a big company, but they're doing great. Ablaze with Kinky Carrot, Zenoscope with Cinderella, Steve Rude, Ascend Comics with Ascendant with Star Spangled Squadron. You've got us with Karma. You've got Raid Press. You've got Dren Productions, Magnetic Press, American Mythology, Arledge, Rum Punch, Fair Square. By the way, Fair Square's book is No Future. Not saying it doesn't have a future. I'm saying the book is called No Future #1. And you have Granica from Laguna Studios. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. So yeah, I think the Comictopia thing is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I love that they're doing it. And I hope this is the first of many. I hope that this is something that goes so well that they plan on doing this every couple of months, or, so that you could get this cross promotion. Because again, promoting products is the hardest thing. If I told you that I've written 3 urban fantasy novels and that they're all available on Amazon. Deadly Creatures is the first one. This is a great book series. I want to do more. But the thing is that it is hard to promote stuff like this. It's hard to get out there. It's hard to get outside of my circle of people. I can only go so far, and then I need help promoting things as well. So I've got a bunch of stuff that's out there. If you've got a pocket full of cash and you just want to spend on Dan, go to Amazon. There's a bunch of stuff. Back this project, stuff like that. But, getting the word out there is the hardest part. So when you read somebody's book, and if you back these products, post about it. Go out on your social media and go, hey, I just backed Granica. #1, check it out. No Future #1 just came out. It's awesome. Or it is on Kickstarter, or excuse me, on crowdfunding. Check it out. Because if you've backed something, if you spread the word about it, you're helping the creators. Fabrice says, we all need exposure. If Comictopia can help, then it's something to support. Indie labels and creators need to unite. Absolutely. 100%. Sarah says, we decided to participate in Comictopia because Granica is a new title, and we thought that the extra support would help with that. It's a great concept. I hope it's even bigger in next time. Again, 100% true. It is. It's really hard. So if you see a book on there that you want to support, awesome. God bless you. But tell people about it. Help the creators get the word out there. If you like the first Karma graphic novel and you want to get the second one, again, love you. But tell people about it. Post about it. Hit your social media. Maybe you only have 100 followers, 50 followers, 10 followers. One of them might want to back it too. And maybe they'll tell their friends. Remember that? Okay. I know I'm older than most people on social media. Ed will probably remember this. There was an old, I think it was a shampoo commercial for Prel that used to have this slogan about telling 2 friends. Basically, if you like the shampoo, tell 2 friends, and then they'll tell 2 friends, and so on, was how the commercial goes. Well, that's what we need to do for indie comics. It's more than just, yes, buy it, back it. But if you want more of them, if you want to see them succeed, you got to be vocal about it, because that's what this is. That's what this world is now, is telling people about it. Get on TikTok and just do a little dance holding the comic. Get on social media, post the cover and say, this is awesome. Or you just backed this. That's the kind of stuff that creators need help with. We will create the hell out of books, but we need help getting the word out. So Sarah says, yeah, totally agree. People think their shout outs on social media don't mean anything, but they're actually mean the world to us. That is true. Also, reviews. If you pop onto Amazon or you pop onto one of these sites that review things, just saying that you liked it, that helps. That helps move it up in the algorithms and everything. Jay says, even if you can't back a project, share it out. You never know what the project will reach that would have never known about in the first place. Thank you, Jay. Exactly. So that is, yeah. So Comictopia, brilliant idea. Let's make it work. Let's hype up our own books. Let's hype up the other books involved. That's the way it goes. That's what needs to happen. So, all right, guys, it's coming up to an hour that I've been talking. I know I drink slow. But let me ask you guys if you have any other questions. If you do, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll probably be wrapping it up. Fabrice says, sharing is free. Spreading the love is free. Let's help each other. Exactly. And again, if it's something you like, spread the word. Ed says, what is Comictopia? Comictopia is a project from BackerKit that has 28 different crowdfunded comics. So Karma's part of it. No Future from Fabrice is part of it. Granica from Sarah is part of it. Zenoscope has a book. And all of us are crowdfunding these books at the same time, but we're cross-promoting through Comictopia. Also, we have a partner publisher. So for us, our partner publisher is American Mythology Press. So if you buy both our books, then you get an extra bonus, which are tarot cards, one with karma on it and one with their character on it. Other companies have their, Sarah, I don't know which off the top of my head, and Fabrice, I don't know who your partner publishers are, but, you know, so there's that direct connection, and then there's the bigger connection of Comictopia, and is keeping track. 15 of 28 projects have already funded. We're trying to get all of them over the finish line. Jay says, can't help it, Dan. Literally couldn't listen to you talk for hours. I appreciate that. Sarah says, and that's an exquisite corpse comic that exquisite corpse comic is a really fun idea, and you can't get it unless you back 5 projects with Comictopia. Yeah. There's also, if you back enough books, you get extra free stuffs as well. Sarah says, our partner is Dren Productions. We offered exclusive covers. Very nice. Fabrice says, my partner is Bouquet and Death Rays, which, unlike us, has just been funded. Excellent. Congrats to them. But let's get Fabrice funded as well, guys. So if you've already backed Karma, go check out No Future. Okay? Or check out Granica. You know, help these other publishers as well. But when I say help, just go look, because they're great books. It's not like you're going to go and go, it's not a charity thing I'm asking. I'm asking you just to check it out, because I think once you see it, you'll want them. So it says, so if I look at my pledge, is there a link to the Comictopia project anywhere? Yeah, like on the Karma page, there is a main Comictopia page. It's Scott, if you're listening, can you throw that up into chat, the main Comictopia page? Yeah, also they have a Comictopia comic which crosses into each of the books. So I know I did a single page for Karma that Carlos did end up drawing. So there is a Karma page out there that's specifically in that comic. I forget about that, but yes. All right, there is the link. Well, that's the link to Karma, and then just below the main image, it says Comictopia, and if you click on that image, it'll take you to the main page. So, see if I missed anything. Okay. All right. So, any last questions? All right. Otherwise, I am going to share it on my page and put it in the Discord. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Ed. By the way, Ed, Jay, and everybody else, thank you for tuning in. Sarah, good luck with the new book. Feel free to reach out to me. Get me on social media. It's my name. So, and keep in touch, and we'll, see if I can help promote your new book. Fabrice, great to see you as always, my friend. Good luck with No Future. That is so weird to say. Good luck with No Future. So, again, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.